We are frying up some potatoes to absolute golden deliciousness. We are going to drip them into the most delicious smoky sauce, and it is going to be incredible. Hi guys, I'm Laura Vitale. Today I want to show you how to make one of my favorite tapas dishes, Patatas Bravas, which is just so good. They are fried potatoes that are essentially sort of dunked, or some places serve it with the sauce on top, with like a really smoky, delicious sauce and a garlic aioli as well. They're to die for. This is because I miss going to my favorite tapas restaurant in Philly. So I am bringing the goodness to me, and I'm not gonna even lie to you. These may be better. They may be better. They are so good. I cannot wait to show you how to make them. So first things first, you need your patatas. You need your potatoes. I really like using a russet potatoes for this, like an Idaho russet potato. It's just kind of my favorite potato to use. It's versatile, it's easy, it's all-purpose, it's phenomenal. Traditionally, you double fry these potatoes. You double fry them. So you put them into some oil at like a lower temperature, like 325. You cook them halfway through, increase the temperature, and then fry them until golden brown. That little fella right there. What are you thinking? Well, we're gonna get rid of him. I don't do it that way because I think when you double fry, I always feel like your end result is never that crispy. B, you can run the risk of really soaking the potatoes with too much oil. 3, you can also run the risk of undercooking your potatoes. So do what I do and do the part boil method, dry them off, and then fry till they get them like really golden and delicious. And they stay so crispy, they're to die for. You don't cut them into a French fry shape. You cut them into these kind of giant sort of triangle cube situation. This is what you want them to look like. Lots of surface area to get really, really crispy. And when you do this method of the part boiling versus the double fry, they stay crispy for so much longer. They're to die for. Also, what you achieve by doing this method is seasoning the interior of the potato itself, because you're going to season that water and it's going to be so delicious and so salty, and it's going to get really like just right into that potato, because there's just nothing worse than having a potato that's like yummy and salty and great on the inside, and you bite into it, man, it's bland. You save that by doing this part boiling method. So what I have here is obviously some water coming to temperature. It doesn't have to come to a boil. A simmer is fine. I don't typically start potatoes in hot water. I typically always stir them into some cold water and bring the temperature of the potato together. But here, I just feel like it really didn't make that much of a difference, and it just works out really, really well. So we've got these nice big chunks. These are kind of my favorite because you just get so much surface area that's going to get really crispy, and I love that. This is to a simmer. I'm going to go ahead and add my taters, and to that, I'm going to bless them with a nice heavy pinch of salt. Now that that's done, they need to kind of cook for about, I would say 7 to 8 minutes. You want them to be about halfway cooked, not to the point where they start to fall apart. You don't want to carry them overcooking, because otherwise you'll end up with a mash, and it's just kind of not what we're looking for. So I'm going to give them 7 to 8 minutes, and just until my knife can start to pierce through the center, and then they're done. I'm going to clear my desk here, and then we're going to make the sauce. Okay, I've got some onion here, finely chopping it, and I'm really finely chopping it because I'm not going to blend this sauce after, which typically you should, because you should have the sauce be really smooth. But I feel like if I finely chop the onion and the garlic, the tiny bit of onion texture going through it doesn't bother me at all. So the onion's done. I'm going to go ahead and add it to a saucepan with some olive oil. I'm bringing the olive oil to temperature with the onion because I really want to make sure that the onion is soft and translucent, and I don't want to burn anything. And then in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and just crush and finely mince some garlic. Onions are looking good. Adding my garlic. You can see the onions are really sort of soft and translucent, and that's what I like to see. Just going to go ahead and let that cook for like another minute or so, just to cook out any of the raw garlic flavor. That is looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and add my smoked paprika, regular paprika, a touch of sugar, and a touch of cayenne. I love to add my spices in some hot oil to just really bloom the flavor. And it already smells insanely good. Now, depending on the research you do, because I did do a lot of research on this recipe, there are tons of different ways to make the sauce. Some people swear by a all tomato base and like no spices at all. But the ones that I found to be like the most authentic, and also based on what I know this dish tastes like, it's definitely not like a crushed tomato situation. It's very, I'm gonna add my flour. I'm gonna blend in my flour. It's very heavy with smoked paprika, and it's almost like a gravy, right? The sauce is essentially a gravy. So I went ahead and stirred in my flour, let that cook for just a few seconds. I just want to get rid of any raw flour taste. And then this is when I add my tomato product. I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Work that in just to kind of wake it up. You can see everything kind of turns into like a paste because of the flour just kind of really absorbed into the oil. But this is what you want. And now you're going to go ahead and add some water. You can also add beef stock, or can also add chicken stock, or you can add veggie stock. I'm going to go ahead and just add water. This looks really clumpy now, but once it comes to temperature, it really starts to kind of melt and turn into a beautiful smoky gravy. Once it's there, I'll show you what it looks like at this point. You're just going to keep it on low, because it's just going to thicken as soon as it comes to temperature. So you kind of want to keep it on low and kind of warm it up gently. And then in a couple minutes, I'm going to drain my potatoes and I'll show you the next step. Sauce is looking great. It's been simmering for a few minutes. It's thickened. I went ahead and seasoned it with some salt and pepper. I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to hit it with just a little squeeze of lemon. A bit of sherry vinegar would really be great here too. I don't have any. I ran out. But a little lemon is perfect. So just add a little bit of that in there. Now I'm going to turn that off and let that sit for a while. And in the meantime, look what I did with the potatoes. I took the potatoes out. They cooked for about, I would say about 6 minutes. I put them on a paper towel lined or napkin lined plate so it absorbed all of the excess moisture. You can see they're kind of like really powdery looking on the outside. That's just going to give you a really gorgeous, deeply brown and crispy crust. They are cooked perfectly. I would say they're about 65% of the way cooked through. Let's say 3/4 of the way cooked through, shall we? But not to the point where they're falling apart. So they're phenomenal. I let them sit here to really drain off any excess liquid because I don't want to add anything wet to oil. Speaking of oil, I've got a little, this is just my little cast iron skillet with some light olive oil. And I'm not going to deep fry these. Not ready yet. I'm not going to deep fry these. I shallow fry because I feel like shallow frying is just much easier. You don't waste as much oil. It's not as daunting. It's not as scary for people. You can also reuse the oil. I'm making some fried eggplants tomorrow, so I will definitely be reusing the oil. So it's just much easier, and it's not as scary for people when I tell them to fry. So a shallow fry is nice and easy. A little olive oil, about I would say 1/2 inch worth from the bottom of the skillet. I'm bringing that to temperature. I want it really nice and hot because I want the potatoes to crisp and get really beautifully golden without absorbing a lot of oil. So once that's there, we'll move on. Carefully add your potatoes to the hot oil. I do this in batches. You obviously don't want to add all of them at once because it will really overcrowd the pan. And then what happens is your temperature of the oil will drop and then you'll end up with really soggy potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and fry them until they're a really beautiful golden brown color on both sides. I'll drain them on a paper towel lined plate, a clean one, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're done. While that goes, we're going to go ahead and make the garlic aioli. Although someone on Instagram, because I posted this there the other day because I made a reels, they said that you call it alioli. So you'll have to let me know. It's an aioli. It's mayo, garlic, salt, pepper, lemon juice. And you have to have this with the Bravas sauce and the potatoes because without it, it just does not taste the same. Like you need the whole trifecta of goodness. I use my little spatula here to catch all of the seeds. A pinch of salt, a bit of pepper. That second batch is looking good. Stir this all around. Make sure it's really well combined. I already have some potatoes that are cooked, so I'm just gonna go ahead and assemble some because I wanna show you what this is like and I'm dying of hunger. But you basically, the way I've had these has been two ways. My favorite way is like this. You take your crispy potatoes, you take your sauce, your Bravas sauce, just like that. You kind of coat the potatoes, okay? And then you take your aioli right in the center. And if you want to, which I do like, hold on, my paprika. A dusting of paprika and a fork for good measure. You take a potato, they're so crispy. You gotta kind of meld it with the sauce and the aioli. It is so good. It's so hot, but it is so good. It's the kind of thing that, for me, it just makes me feel like going to a tapas restaurant, getting all dressed up and enjoying like amazing varieties of food in tiny little bowls. It makes me feel good and it's exciting, but it's so easy to make at home. You can give yourself that same experience. It's garlicky, smoky, crispy, very hot. A must make. Go to laurainthekitchen.com. I will have the entire recipe written for you. You have to make these this weekend, whenever your heart desires. They're that good. I'm gonna dive in for a third one. Hope you enjoy spending time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.